Hey there, YouTube bassists. How are you doing? Happy Thanksgiving. This is John from johnfoxbass.com coming to you today with the brand new Bergantino Forté D 800 watt Class D bass amplifier with the big fat tube circuit built in. And I'm going to demonstrate this great amp to you. I received it yesterday. What a fantastic birthday present. And plugged it in about 1:30 in the morning just to test it out real quick, and I was planning on doing a demo today, and I ended up playing it for 4 hours until 5:30 in the morning with the headphones. It sounded so good I just couldn't stop. So got a couple of hours of sleep and made it through the day somehow. Here I am now exhausted, but I want to make a recording so that you can hear how great this thing sounds. First thing I wanted to do is let you hear this 1966 Ampeg B-15N. Why is that? Well, it's remarkable how similar the two amps sound, especially when you engage the drive in the Bergantino. I mean, the whole inspiration for that big fat tube circuit really was this puppy, the mid-60s Ampeg. So what I'm going to do is play a few notes with this passive jazz bass. It's a Stenback, and listen to how it sounds, and then just move over to the Forte, and you can notice that it's quite similar. Not exactly the same, but with messing with the EQ, you can probably get it almost exactly the same. Now we've got a 15 versus 2 10s over top of a 112. There's obviously a lot more hi-fi, a lot more clarity in these cabinets. And in addition to that, this cabinet is kind of tucked away behind me and physically a little different. So you've got to allow for a little bit of the spatial difference, and also we're recording on a cell phone, so I don't know how accurate it will be, but listening here in the room, you know, standing back a ways, there's not a heck of a lot of difference between the two setups. It's quite amazing once the drive is engaged. Now with the Bergantino set clean, it just sounds really clean. It sounds beautiful, as you would hope, but it's not the same as the old Ampeg. You know, this thing is 30 watts, and when you start pushing, it's very easy to push 30 watts and get those tubes to start going into some mild breakup. So here, let's hear what it sounds like. This is first of all just the neck pickup. And the bridge pickup. And both. And then let's switch it over to the Forté D. The neck, that was both. Here's the neck. And there it is. That's with the drive fully engaged. If we turn the drive all the way back to 0 off, nice and clean, punchy. Put the drive about halfway up. I'm going to cut the high mids a little bit because it's a little too much of that for me. Maybe even some more. Okay, and then 3/4 of the way up. tone back a bit on the bass and rolled the bridge pickup off a little bit, most of the way off. And man, that sounds really, really nice. It sounds like a tube amp to me. Let's go to the bridge and we'll roll the tone way back. I'm going to try to switch over to an active bass. So we can see the difference in the tone with the circuit in or out with an active bass. And what we've got to do is turn up the bass and the mid-range and start playing loudly. Turn the master all the way down. Start playing loudly and get it. Turn the preamp gain down to where it stops clipping. Okay, and that will give us a nice clean input and make maximum use of the drive circuit. If we have the preamp gain too low, we're not going to drive the drive circuit enough to really get as much dirt out of it as you can. So you want to try to maximize driving that drive circuit by doing that process whenever you switch instruments. All right, I'm going to set these tone controls in a realistic spot, and that's the neck pickup. And that's with the drive circuit off, and then about halfway up. The cool thing, if you notice, is that the level really stays pretty constant as you turn the drive up. You don't have to mess with the volume at all. It compensates, which is absolutely ingenious. So thank you, Jim Bergantino. It's an amazing idea to do that. It's really smart and very cool. And all the way to the max. And both pickups. awesome. Gets a little bright, huh? Man, it sounds really, really good to me. Okay, so I also had the B-amp sitting here, and I wanted to just quickly show the comparison. One customer was asking about that, and I set the tone controls on the B-amp pretty much the same as where I had them on the Forte D. So the B-amp and the Forte are very, very, very similar. There's a lot of overlap. You notice the front panel layout is even almost identical except for over here. Really, the guts of the preamp are the same, and of course the amp is the same amp. So the difference is that in the B-amp you have full control over the tone controls and how they work, the parameters of the tone controls. You can change the center frequency of the bass and low mid, high mid, treble. Change the center frequency, change the Q, the bandwidth, in other words, how steep or shallow the slope is of the curve for those filters. Whereas with the Forte series, you don't have that control. Jim has set that for you, and it's fixed. Also, the Forte amps have got built-in compressor. On the HP, the compressor is variable on the front panel, and on the Forte D, the compressor is fixed at a common, generally good usable setting that most people would find pleasant. It's not in your face. It's like you don't really notice that it's there, but you'd notice it if it was gone. You'd miss it. So it's a perfect setting. And the B-amp doesn't have that, but the B-amp does have the front panel USB port so that you can use a flash drive to load new software into it. If Jim changes the circuitry for any of the, like the BFT circuit is actually available in version 5.23 of the firmware, which you can load into the B-amp. If that ever gets updated, you can always get a new version and update it. The same with the HP. Whereas with the Forte D, you have what you have, and it's I wouldn't complain because it's an awesome circuit. It's perfect as far as I'm concerned, exactly as it is. So I wouldn't worry about ever wanting to change it anyway. But that's the trade-off that you get for your extra couple $100. For the B-amp, it's updatable. If you're a tweaker and you love having knobs, being able to really dial in, have those tone controls work exactly the way you want, kind of almost like a parametric EQ, you can do that. And with the others, you cannot. but you don't have. Well, that's probably enough. This video is really meant to be about the Forté D, and I just wanted to kind of give a quick comparison, compare and contrast the differences between them. Obviously, the other big difference with the HP is that you've got 1200 watts of power, so you can motivate, you know, more speakers or more air if you wish. But for the vast majority of situations, I would say, you know, the 800 watts is probably good for most people in most situations. For really big spaces, or if you just have to compete with a very ridiculously loud band, the overhead, you know, the extra headroom that you get with the 1200 watts to be able to really put out the low frequencies without losing too much of your important content, it really does make a noticeable difference. You absolutely feel more immediacy from the speakers when you know, the player really feels the difference when you touch the note. It just, everything you do on the bass comes out instantly from the speaker with that 1200 watts motivating those voice coils. Whereas you might notice, you know, like a millisecond difference or whatever with the 800 watts. Nobody in the audience is ever going to hear the difference. They can't tell. But when you're playing, you can feel the difference in the immediacy of the response if you're sensitive enough to notice that. And you know, with a band going, you might not really even notice it. Anyway, that's the Bergantino amplifier series, and thanks for watching. This is John from johnfoxbass.com, and please, if you want to get Forté D, they are shipping now. So go ahead and order one from the website, johnfoxbass.com, and it'll be on its way to you immediately, same day or next day at the latest. And I'm very excited to have this here, and anybody who's in the New Jersey area wants to come check it out in person, contact me through the website and set up an appointment, and you're welcome to come check it out. Thanks very much for watching. Take care.